Hi, I'm Caroline Weaver from Body and Soul Companion. We are on week 23, day 2 of the spiritual exercises of Ignatius. Jesus is proclaiming the kingdom. So a lot of these verses say kingdom. Jesus talked about kingdom a lot, just saying. So we have a shorter passage today. So I'm going to set the scene. I set the scene yesterday, kind of gave you the background of Galilee. If you didn't listen to yesterday's, you can listen because there's more of a background from a wonderful book that, I forgot to do the description. In the description, do a link to it. I'll do that later for yesterday's. I'll do it for today too, just to give you double. It's a great book. It's imaginative contemplations. I think it's 70 stories. Might be less, but still, this story isn't in there, so I'm doing it all on my own. And actually, because it's just the words of Jesus, we're doing a Lectio Divina in the words of Jesus. So but you're imagining yourself sitting on that mount listening to Jesus. You're one of his committed followers. So I think I said everything. What I'm going to do. Yesterday I did it in 3 different versions, but since it's just a shorter number of verses today, I'll do most of it in just the New American Standard, but then I'll read on the last one. I'll read both the Message and the Passion, and you can put that in your needles and knit it. I learned that from Elizabeth Elliot. She said that once in a talk. I heard her talk. Anyway, so let's close our eyes and prepare our heart with each breath. Just thinking about how do we prepare our hearts, giving him any burden you might be feeling right now. Anything that your heart and also your mind is distracted by. Your heart may be feeling fear, anxiety, worry about something. Give those fears, anxieties, and worries over to God, casting your anxieties upon him because he cares for you. Imagine you're sitting there with Jesus. He's looking you straight in the face. Let his eyes gazing upon you bring you peace in your heart. And then anything you have to do today, anything that's distracting your mind or people that are on your mind, I also invite you to give them over to Jesus. Let him take the burden you feel or the distraction you feel. Our heart and mind, and now our strength. Maybe you've had tension that's built up over the day. Scanning over your entire body. Pay attention to where you might be holding tension and release that tension. Psalm 46:10 in the margin of the New American Standard says, "Let go, relax, and know that I am God." And And then fixing your gaze, looking at Jesus. Imagine yourself as one of the committed followers. It was his disciples and those who were committed to him who sat on that mount and listened to his words. So just imagine yourself there. Look out over the fertile valley below you. Look at the Sea of Galilee in the distance. It's a peaceful and beautiful spot. And then look into the eyes of Jesus. See his loving gaze upon you and receive that loving gaze. And with your gaze fixed on him, you want to say to Jesus, Jesus, I want more and more of my day to be committed to your service and praise. I want to follow you. Lord, help me Jesus, to see you more clearly and love you more dearly and follow you more nearly every day. And see the expression on his face as you say that to him. And then with his eyes fixed on you, he says, you, yes, you, are the salt of the earth. But if the salt has become tasteless, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor does anyone light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light shine before men in such a way that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. Do not think that I came to abolish the law or the prophets. I did not come to abolish, but to fulfill. So let yourself just sit with that first reading. So with the second reading, with Jesus, your gaze fixed straight at Jesus and him gazing, looking at you. What does Jesus want you to really hear? What is specifically for you? What word or phrase in everything that Jesus says? What shimmers for you? You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt has become tasteless, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor does anyone light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light shine, see that light, before men, before everyone, in such a way that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. Do not think that I came to abolish the law or the prophets. I did not come to abolish, but to fulfill. So, what word or phrase shimmered for you? Let's spend a little bit of time on that word or phrase, and just like an animal or the cow chews on the cud, just chew on that word or phrase. Just reflect upon it and roll it over and over in your mind. Turn the video off if that wasn't enough time for you. I'm going to read it this third time, and at the end of that time you'll have an opportunity to have a conversation with Jesus about what really stood out to you in his talk on the mount. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt has become tasteless, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor does anyone light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light shine before men in such a way that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. Do not think that I came to abolish the law or the prophets. I did not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it. So, an opportunity to respond to Jesus. Imagine him speaking face to face on that mount. Okay, with this last reading, turn off the video if that wasn't enough time. I had a good conversation with God. I'll tell you about it at the end. So, I'm going to read from the Passion on this last time and then go right to the Message, and then we'll go into silence. Since it's such a short passage today, we have time. Your lives are like, again, just imagine Jesus looking at you face to face. He's translating into another language. Oh dear. Your lives are like salt among the people. But if you, like salt, become bland, how can your saltiness be restored? Flavorless salt is good for nothing and will be thrown out and trampled on by others. Just ponder that as I look something up. Okay, here's some background. Rabbinical literature equates salt with wisdom. After speaking of salt, Jesus speaks of lighting a lamp. It was a common practice in the time of Jesus to put salt on the wick of a lamp to increase its brightness. Who knew? Wow, that's kind of cool. The salt of wisdom will make our light shine even brighter. I love that. And that is from Edward Schweitzer, The Good News According to Matthew. Wow, that's great. 2001, page 797 to 798. Sorry for that brief little... so salt was put on the lamp to make it brighter. Wow. Okay, I'm going to try that. Oh, I'm going to read that again. Your lives are like salt among the people, but if you, like salt, become bland, how can your saltiness be restored? Flavorless salt is good for nothing and will be thrown out and trampled on by others. Your lives light up the world, for how can you hide a city that stands on a hilltop? And who would light a lamp and then hide it in an obscure place? Instead, it's placed where everyone in the house can benefit from its light. So don't hide your light. Let it shine brightly with that extra salt before others, so that your commendable works will shine as light upon them, and then they will give their praise to your Father in heaven. If you think I've come to set aside the law of Moses or the writings of the prophets, you're mistaken. I have come to bring to perfection all that has been written. So we're going to do silence, and then I'll read the message after the silence. So let's have a couple of minutes of silence. So as we come out of this time of silence into the world of words, I'll read from the Message version. Let me tell you why you are here. You are here to be salt seasoned that brings out the God flavors of this earth. If you lose your saltiness, how will people taste godliness? You've lost your usefulness and will end up in the garbage. Here's another way to put it. You're here to be light, bringing out the God colors in the world. God is not a secret to be kept. We're going public with this, as public as a city on a hill. If I make you light bearers, you don't think I'm going to hide you under a bucket, do you? I'm putting you on a light stand. Now that I've put you there on a hilltop, on a light stand, shine! Keep open house. Be generous with your lives by opening up to others, and you'll prompt people to open up with God, this generous Father in heaven. Don't suppose for a minute that I have come to demolish the scriptures, either God's law or the prophets. I'm not here to demolish, but to complete. I'm going to put it all together in a vast panorama. Wow, God colors. You're here to be a light, bringing out the God colors in the world with that salt and that light, making it even brighter. We will close with the Lord's Prayer, and we're going to do a lot of the Lord's Prayer the next 2 days. Very exciting. Our Father, who is in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done. On earth as it is in heaven, give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. So at the end of this, continue that conversation with Jesus. Go for a walk. In 2 days from now, you're going to go hopefully for a walk. So try to plan for it. Or sometime this week, we're going to go through the Lord's Prayer. And then the day after that, or whenever you have time, we're going to go out. With that I just said, we're going to go out into that world and take a walk. And what I call prayer walking, and I'll tell you more about that. And we're going to pray the Lord's Prayer over a place that you want to see salt and light and God's kingdom to come to. But I'm going to take my camera out, and there's going to be people in it, so I think I'll just not do their faces, just like have the camera angled down. I don't know. I'm still making it up as I go along, but I'm kind of excited about this. Really reread it in the Message and the Passion, re-listen to it. I loved how both of them, well, especially the Passion with the little helps at the bottom, that was really helpful. So I have a little bit of time. I usually try to keep these to 30 minutes. So I realize I did these out of order. I already did, after the Lord's Prayer, I did the woman who burst in on the scene this week and anointed Jesus with the perfume and the parable of the two debtors. I did it because my community had done it the night before. So I thought, oh, it's fresh in my mind. I had done an imaginative contemplation, so I did it again the next morning. So it's out of order. But at the end, I'm almost positive at the end of that, I said, oh, I got to go teach a Pilates class. I think that's what I said because that was Monday. And I'll tell you the story. It's kind of fun. I taught Pilates at the university here for 7 years, and I've been doing Pilates for 20 years. I had just given a talk that morning to a group of spiritual directors about integrating body and soul. And I think it's, as you know, I talk about that when we go into, God has for us to move our bodies. Ignatius knew that too, because you take your candle and you go for a walk. So awesome. So I've been thinking that was really on my mind because I'd just given that talk, and I was preparing for that talk when my husband went to the university to give a talk on statistics in industry, because he's a statistician, and I rode my bike with him. And then as I was going around campus, I thought, and I've been thinking this a lot, that I really miss my students. I loved teaching Pilates, just the actual act of teaching Pilates, but it was just so much extra work, taking enrollment and going on the computer and having to grade things, although I loved reading their papers because I always learned a lot about my students. So I did say to God, when I was, after my husband had been dropped off at his talk, I said to God, Lord, I really would like to sub. I'm not even on the payroll. I'd really like to sub for the Pilates class, and I pray that the director would call me or contact me. 48 hours later, the director contacted me by text and said, Carol, we had a regular instructor who had a death in the family, and can you sub for, at that point, it was going to be 5 classes, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 classes. It was going to be 7. Yeah. Maybe it was 5. Yeah, it was going to be, no, 2, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it was going to be 7 classes. And long story short, some of them were going to be faculty staff fitness classes, and some of them were going to be the ones where you have to take roll and do all that kind of stuff. And so I said that on the video. You'll see it in 2 days. And so I got in, and I loved teaching. And I told everybody, I said, hey, I prayed. I said it would be so great. And so the faculty staff fitness person, where you don't have to take roll and you don't have to do any of that stuff, she said, Carol, this person is leaving after this term. Would you consider coming back to teach again? And and she goes, I'll even take you 1 day a week. That's it. And my spiritual direction practice has really expanded and exploded. And so I just had a hard time fitting in teaching 3 days a week. And she said, I'll even take you for 1 day. So how this is hitting me is the whole salt and light package. I just thought, of all days, I'm going back to teach another class today. They found, so it's only 3 classes I'm going to teach as opposed to 7, which is great because I was really sore after teaching 2 classes on Monday, because I haven't taught for 1.5 years, and it's a lot harder to do it when you're doing it in your living room versus doing it in front of a whole class. You work a lot harder. So all that to say is that the verses that God led me to it was 9 years ago now. It's 2015, so I guess it's not almost 9 years ago, led me to teach there, were these verses on being salt and light. And if you recall, last week I read that whole thing about being Christ out in the world. I'll read it. I might go over 30 minutes, but it's a great story. So you can turn it off, or you can fast forward, or put it on to me talking 2 times. But I had read, I'm going on and on, but it just, the whole idea of going out into public life and living out your life. And I had read that whole thing, walking with Jesus out and going out, about, oh gosh, I can't remember. Yeah, carry the light-giving message into the night, so I'll provide people with a glimpse of good living and of the living God. It's when we meditated on Philippians 2:14 through 16 in the message 2 weeks ago. So I kind of was thinking, but these were the actual verses that God gave me for teaching at the university. And so I'm like, God, I'm open. And maybe one day a week just gets me back on campus, gets me back. I just miss being on campus. I miss my coworkers. And if I teach faculty staff fitness, I won't have to take roll and grade papers and all that extra stuff that's involved. So I'm going to make it 30 minutes. Be blessed.